This is a Gato Consulting production, Strategy for Action, the second part of external analysis, industry analysis. Here is a famous framework to analyze the structure and attractiveness of an industry, the Five Forces model created by Michael Porter. Could be used to look at new markets, but you also need to do it for your own and see how you can be proactive managing the five forces that influence your industry. We will start by looking at customers and the bargaining power they tend to have versus the industry players like you. How that affects price, and are there groups of buyers that could be more favorable or unfavorable to you? Can you somehow integrate your value chain with theirs to create value? For instance, by having your products assembled by them. Next, we'll take a look at substitute products. Why, you may ask? Well, let me take you back in time. Remember these guys? Companies like Royal and Brother? They didn't see these guys coming, not soon enough, and when they did, they probably didn't do anything about it. IBM looked like this those days. They were a little late to the game, but they caught up with the personal computer industry, and eventually got rid of that too, and reinvented themselves as the behemoths they continue to be. One more example. A regional insulation company expanded into air conditioning and solar systems to power it. One cannot neglect substitute products. Ask not how they do things, but if what they do can possibly replace your product's functionality. What is the buyer's propensity to start using the other product? To answer that question, you need to understand what are the switching costs. And by the way, can you reverse this to your own benefit and use potential substitute products as an opportunity? Next, I'll look at suppliers and the bargaining power they have in the industry. Are you missing out on some good suppliers? We'll also look at labor and government as suppliers, if applicable. And again, can you somehow integrate your value chain with theirs to create value? Number 4, barriers to entry. Look around your industry. How fortified is the castle that you're in? How likely are you to get more competitors? We'll try to identify companies looking to get in because of economies of scale and synergies, especially if existing product differentiation or lack thereof could open some doors to latent rivals with enabling competencies. What is really the know-how and capital requirements needed to come into the industry? Access to channels. Keep in mind, some customers might be keeping an eye on vertical integration and getting into your own business. Suppliers too. How can you defend yourself from the threat of new competitors? And we will finally look at the intensity of rivalry in the industry. Leveraging the earlier work on competitors, we will investigate how aggressiveness might affect the margins in the industry for the future. Then a look at industry life cycle. Is it an emergent, growing, mature industry? Or is it time to jump ship? And depending on its stage, might industry boundaries change, perhaps due to substitute products? Or might it become commoditized? Is the industry fragmented or consolidated? Or will it consolidate? And should you consider being part of the consolidation move? And if so, should you buy or should you sell? These five forces have a tremendous power over the industry, and I'd like to give you a few local examples of that. Standard is a Marcy, New York company founded in 1928. It has been traditionally known for its home insulating services. But Standard added heating and cooling to its offering, successfully converting a substitute product threat into an opportunity. PAR is a New Hartford public company with technology for restaurants. A great part of its point of sales components used to come from China. When the China-US tariff war started a couple of years ago, raising the cost of some items up to 25%, we accelerated the transition of suppliers to Taiwan. Sylvania USA is one of the largest olive oil companies in the country right here in Rome, New York. But it is in an industry traditionally plagued by unfair competitors, and some players entered the market by mixing in lower quality oils. When I was the CEO of Sylvania USA, I went to Albany with two other industry leaders and spoke with a couple of assemblymen. A few months later, New York became the second state in the nation to have standards for olive oil. These barriers to entry actually contributed to force a well-known prevaricator off the retail store shelves. CONMED is a public company specializing in medical devices. It has revenues in excess of $1 billion a year, and it is headquartered in Utica, New York. In the summer of 2022, CONMED announced about $300 million in buying two companies, Into-Bones and Biorez. These are players in the orthopedics and sports medicine fields. Among other things, what these acquisitions do for CONMED is making it much more relevant to its buyers in that segment. Everyone loves Chobani. It started in 2005 in New Berlin, New York, and basically created the Greek yogurt category in the US. It dominated the market alone for several years, but about a decade ago, Danone and General Mills came into that market and intensified rivalry. Today, Chobani's market share is down to 20%. It's no longer the leader, and it hasn't been profitable. It also had postponed its IPO a couple of times recently. However, it continues to see new opportunities in the further expansion of the Chobani brand into new products, like cereals, and into new international regions.
If you notice, some of these moves were not preventive, but reactive, like in the cases of Sovina and Par. I know, I was there. Chobani, however, might have been a little too late going after its newfound opportunities in products and geographies. And only time will tell if it was just too late launching its IPO. The point is, every once in a while, you need to force yourself to think about these things, or you run the risk of having to react, possibly too late. Strategy for action will help. And it's not just about setting some time aside to think about these 5 forces in an abstract way. I'll talk about this in one of the next videos. But the Strategy for Action framework has a very detailed script to cover these topics and to make sure that you stay ahead of the curve. In the meantime, and just around the corner, welcome to the Mohawk Valley and to Central New York.
Before we go, a reminder to go to the toolset page of our website. It has all the tools that support this video and will allow you to implement the framework. www.strategyforaction.com/toolset. This is a Gatto Consulting production. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe. There are plenty of new videos coming up.